and welcome to Guide to Brides, the wedding podcast. We are back for another episode today, and it's all about wedding jewellery and wedding rings. And today we are on the road again, and we have visited David Rodger Sharp Jewellers in Henley-on-Thames. We are actually in their workshop at the moment, which is where they make your own wedding rings, isn't it? And we're going to be discussing all things wedding jewellery. So before we get started, David, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, yes, I'm David Rodger Sharp. We have a shop in Henley and one in Oxford. We're really excited to be here today to talk about all things bling.
Yeah, all things bling, I love it.
And I think we've got some lab-grown diamonds to talk about as well,
Yes,
which is really exciting.
we do. It's going to be a really interesting episode because I think this is one of the things that either you get engaged and you don't pick the ring and you go together to pick the ring, or it's something that you discuss afterwards because you want to have a ring that matches your engagement ring. And then also there's even more wedding jewellery, isn't there?
Yeah, and you know what's interesting is there's been a huge change in the way people buy engagement rings. So you're right, for decades, the man came in, a bit nervous, didn't really know what he was looking for, quite intimidated. But now we're seeing more and more couples coming in together because, you know, he wants to make sure that she gets the perfect ring, and I think sometimes the woman wants to make sure that she gets the perfect ring.
Well, when I remember before I got engaged, I was sort of like dropping hints to my partner of exactly what I wanted for my engagement ring.
Well, it used to be hints, now it's
yes,
darling, this is the one we're buying.
Yes, this is the one we're buying. And do you find that they sort of go in together before they get engaged, or do you think it's they kind of had a discussion, they know it's going to happen? But
yeah, it's a real bit of both. I think we see the couples coming in together. She picks the ring, but she doesn't want to be there when he pays for it.
Right.
So he sometimes comes back later. But actually more and more now that they're getting engaged with, you know, a ring pool or a Haribo suite, or they just have the words and then they come in together. And actually it's quite nice when they come in together because you get to celebrate with both of them that moment and help them find the perfect ring.
Yeah, which is really special, isn't it? Because it's you know, that Haribo ring is a really sweet way to propose as well, isn't it? Excuse the pun. So, can you tell us a little bit more about finding? Let's go right to the beginning. Finding that perfect engagement ring. So, what kind of things do we need to consider?
Well, I think now, the most important thing is things like what metal, which I think we're going to talk a bit about later.
Yeah.
But depending on what the person does, we might recommend a certain metal for them. Sometimes it's about, some people just simply want bling, and some people want to keep it quite traditional. So it's really about asking all the right questions. So we'll ask customers questions like, you know, what do you do for a living? What kind of, you know, jewellery do you normally wear? Because if someone normally wears yellow gold, the chances are they're going to go for a yellow gold engagement ring. So really it's about getting to know the customer first. We always sort of say, you know, story first and then product second.
Right.
Because once you get to know your customer and the products that they already love and have already invested in, gives you a bit more of an idea of where you're going to take that next. And actually what we're finding more and more now is that clients are turning away from traditional diamonds and they're going for coloured gemstones, or at the moment we're seeing a lot of people really interested in lab-grown diamonds. So I'm not sure, are you familiar with lab-grown?
Yes, I've got one.
Oh, fabulous.
Yes. Yeah. So the lab-grown diamonds are definitely picking up in popularity. I am actually seeing them a lot on TikTok and sort of social media like that at the moment. Oh my God, there's a big hype.
It's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting because most traditional jewellers are terrified of them because they simply don't understand them. And there's so much misinformation out there about lab-grown diamonds as well. So
tell us a bit more about a lab-grown diamond versus a natural diamond.
I mean, I guess the main thing to understand is that both of them are diamonds, 100% diamonds. There's no difference optically, illusionally. You know, they're both made fundamentally of 4 carbon atoms in a tetrahedral, you know, shape, and then layered. They're both diamonds. There's no difference. The only difference really is how they've come about. So natural diamonds are mined from the ground, and lab-grown diamonds are grown in a lab. But they both are chemically, optically the exact same thing. There's a lot of pros for both, I guess. Natural diamonds, there's the wonder of it coming out of the earth and the ground, all those kind of things. But actually, I think more now what we're seeing is people they're a lot more interested and invested in the suffering of other people in the world. And I think that's where we're seeing, and the whole ethical side of things as well. People are more aware of what's going on with the planet. So we're definitely seeing a big uptick in people asking for lab-grown diamonds because they understand that there's no human suffering. They're completely conflict-free. The resources, the natural resources that they use to mine diamonds is astronomical. For 1 carat diamond, they use 156 gallons of water.
Wow.
As where for lab-grown, it's about 8.
Right, so it's a much less resources needed to grow a lab-grown diamond.
Yeah, and it's amazing how it's done. The science behind it's incredible. I mean, they basically use a diamond, so a seed. So it's a bit like putting a seed in a plant pot and watching it grow. They put a seed in this special chamber, and then they add gases and plasma, and they heat it to 6,000 degrees. So that's the same temperature as the sun.
Right.
And then they add, the gases create pressure inside the chamber, and it's the equivalent of you balancing a jumbo jet on your pinky. That's how much
pressure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they're effectively just recreating what happens in the Earth's mantle in a chamber. They come out, they grow like a rock. I think a lot of people actually think that they're like cubic zirconia, and they're just made in that shape like a diamond, and they're not. They have the same. When it grows like a rough rock, and then it has to go away and be cut the same as a natural diamond. But I think it's grown, not mined, and we're seeing a lot of people now. And the best part is they're so much more accessible.
Yes, and that I think was a big thing for my partner, because he said he looked at both options, and he said that actually he wanted to get a certain size and not less than that. And so when he was looking for things, he was like, well, actually, I can't afford the mined diamond in that size. I'd have to significantly it wasn't like talking 0.1 carat. It was quite a significant drop in the size of the diamond that he could get. So he wanted to get a lab grown because it actually meant I could have a bigger diamond than he was initially thinking. So that's
you're right. It's the for a lot of clients, the first thing we ask is, how much do they know about diamonds? And then how much do they want to know? Because actually some people just care that it sparkles.
Yeah.
And they don't want to know all the other bits and bobs. But, to give you an example of equivalence in cost, a 1 carat natural diamond will cost around about £8,000.
Okay.
A lab-grown diamond is probably about 3,000 to 3,500.
Right, so it's a significantly reduced cost. And do you think that's because there's less resources needed to sort of actually get hold of the diamond?
Yeah, I think at the moment there's a lot of things in the market that are keeping the prices quite low, and I think there's a lot of people trying to get onto the market and grow them. Some of the big players in the diamond industry are terrified of it because they don't want to see their investments devalue. So there's a lot of information about these things having no resale value, not being the same, being fake diamonds. We hear all this language is being used, and most of it's incorrect. But it's just because people don't understand them. So the prices are really, I think, where natural diamonds probably should be. People think. I mean, I've got a question for you. How many carats of diamonds do you think were mined last year? Because they're rare, remember.
Yeah. I don't know, a couple of thousand?
146 million.
Wow.
So when we talk about rareability, I mean, how rare are they really? 146 million. So, I think diamonds are, I love diamonds. I always have. I think they are amazing to think that something has been in the ground for 2 billion years before it ends up on your finger. I mean, that is incredible.
Yeah.
But actually, it's when I go back to when I really think about the suffering and the children mines, and there's at least 1 in 1,000 miners die every year mining for diamonds that we know of, and you think you can take all that away simply by growing them
in a lab. And that's the thing as well. I think for me, I wanted something ethical, and that's something I made very clear. But how can you guarantee that if it's a natural diamond? It's one of those things that's quite difficult to guarantee. Absolutely. Isn't it? Because you can't always follow the supply chain perfectly in all instances, whereas with a lab grown diamond you literally get a number. This is the diamond that grew, and this is how it was grown and where it was grown. And
that's brilliant. And you talk about that number, you're right. Every lab grown diamond on its girdle, we call it the side of the diamond, has a serial number. And that serial number is also on the certificate, which is done by a third party that tells you the colour, the clarity, the cut. So actually you know immediately that what you're getting, and you don't get that with natural diamonds. You go into most high street jewellers and you buy a diamond, the only paperwork you get is a receipt to say it costs this much. You don't actually get a certificate from an independent body. But with lab-grown diamonds, you do. So you actually know you're getting something that's also higher quality. And I think the market is changing. I think as a jewellers, we've made a huge decision to actually sell through our natural diamonds and simply go lab-grown, because we care about the environment, we care about the people. We employ 20 people, and I would hate to think of any of their kids having to work 15-hour days for $1. So for us, it's actually a huge amount of it's about the ethics, especially when you're in a place like Oxford as well. People really do care, and I think we're seeing more and more people, and the more research we do, the more we find out about the suffering and the
impact,
benefits and the impact. Yeah, absolutely. So that's why we've sort of chosen to sell through our natural and become lab only, because it just gives people so much more value for money. And I talked earlier about one of the things we're seeing now as well is a lot of people are going for or opting to have coloured diamonds, coloured gemstones. So things like aquamarine, tanzanite, sapphires, rubies, and they're wonderful. They make such a statement on the finger. If you've got a nice aquamarine with a diamond either side, the trouble is it's not suitable as an engagement ring. So we see a lot of people buying rings that we try to not discourage them, but we have to explain that an aquamarine isn't suitable for everyday wear, but just simply because it isn't hard enough. But now you can get a diamond the same colour as an aquamarine that costs less than that.
Oh, wow. So it will be the same sort of, well, I want to say the longevity, but, they're diamonds, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. So you get the feel and the colour that you're looking for, but it'll last forever.
Yeah.
And it's great. It gives people so much more choice. And that's what we're really focused on. So we've got a lot of blue diamonds and pink diamonds and yellow diamonds, green diamonds. I mean, diamonds come in every colour you can imagine.
Really? I didn't realise that. I've never heard of a blue or a green diamond.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. I mean, red diamonds are probably one of the most expensive gemstone on earth.
Really?
Was probably a red diamond. So they're completely inaccessible to every. Pink diamonds, for example, a 1 carat pink diamond of good colour could cost you £1 million.
Wow.
We have them in our window for £5,000.
Yeah.
But
it's a significant difference there then.
Huge difference. When it comes to coloured diamonds, the difference is incredible, but you just get something of beauty. In yellow diamonds, a canary yellow diamond on your finger, it's just stunning. We're seeing a lot of couples now, a lot of women actually self-purchasing jewellery as well.
Really?
So where you would wait for a significant birthday or anniversary, to get those lovely diamond earrings or diamond necklace, but they're now more accessible to the average person. So women are actually now coming in and buying themselves diamonds, which is really empowering when they can say, I've
bought
worked
some
hard.
myself,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. These are my earrings. I paid for them.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're seeing a lot more women actually self-purchasing with lab-grown, and they all care about the ethics as well. So it's great. It's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, especially since, as you say, the difference is how they're grown, and that's it. And it's nothing. It's still a diamond either way.
Yeah. And you can't, you buy. So, for example, I'm going to pick up this 3-stone diamond ring. So it's 3 oval cut diamonds.
Yep.
The middle one is a carat, and either side you've got a half carat. So it's about 2 carats in total, set in platinum. The sparkle on it, I mean, if you look at that sparkle, it's absolutely
beautiful.
fabulous.
And we're going to do a close-up shot of this if you're watching on YouTube.
I mean, I'll let you have a look at it. The sparkle is incredible. Oh. So,
very, very beautiful.
Yeah, they're much higher colour and clarity. It's completely certified, each stone. But if you take that to any jewellers up and down the country, you can't tell the difference. They wouldn't know. So you think, well, why are we spending? I mean, that was £4,000, lab grown. Natural, 2 carats, you'd be looking at probably £20,000.
Yeah. So what's that? Less than about 20% of the cost.
Yeah. I mean, that's. I mean, it sounds insane. It sounds almost too good to be true. Yeah. And I think that's what some of the big companies are doing, is they're trying to make it sound like it's too good to be true. We obviously won't mention any names, but by making it sound too good to be true, people sort of believe that. But the reality is it's a diamond.
Yeah, that's really, really nice to hear, actually, because, as being in the industry, I've sort of heard a growing interest in this now.
Yeah.
But when my partner said, I got a lab-grown diamond, and I was like, oh, tell me more. What does that actually mean? And it was quite nice that he was in the shop and they would express all of that, and they would tell him about it and tell him about all of the ethical benefits and things like that, which is, to me, is much nicer. And you know what? In my head, I'm like, this diamond was grown for me. It's mine.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but do you know, we're finding people are actually excited to talk about it.
Yeah.
As where people would be a bit nervous, oh, my ring's, it's not a real diamond. Now they're saying it's a diamond, but guess what? It only cost this much.
Yeah.
People are actually excited to share the fact that their diamond was grown in a lab and it was ethical and it's this little impact on the earth. And it's great because, you know, we're then seeing the introduction of lab-grown diamonds into wedding rings.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, we're now seeing a much bigger range. And obviously we sell a lot of wedding rings. You know, couples are coming in together, always together, generally for wedding rings. And they can now get that beautiful wedding ring they've always dreamed of with diamonds all the way around it. And it doesn't cost the earth. Literally, it doesn't cost the earth.
Yeah.
So that's great as well.
Yeah, and speaking of wedding rings, I think that leads us nicely into sort of how do you even know where to start when you choose a wedding ring?
My God, do you know, it's you're right, it's frightening because there's so much choice as well.
Yeah.
And there's so much confusion around wedding rings because you've got, I mean, if you look at the wedding rings in this tray just here, you've got a, you know, traditional court, soft court, flat court, premium court, D shape. What does that mean to you?
Honestly, nothing.
Exactly. So, and that's where it always comes down to trusting the experts.
Yes,
you know,
absolutely.
So people buy wedding rings online, and then they come to us because it doesn't fit, or they're not, you know, they don't like the shape of it, because it is so bamboozling, just the sheer amount of finishes and things like that. So we always recommend people go into a jeweler that they trust. So often it might be the jeweler that they've bought their engagement ring from. We recommend, you know, starting there actually, because you've already got a rapport with them and a relationship with them. But not everyone wants to go back to the initial jewellers they went to. So it's about going to somebody who again really understands the importance of finding the perfect ring for you. And your ring should really complement your engagement ring.
Yes.
A question we get asked a lot is, should our rings match? No. You know, it's your wedding ring. Wear what you want to wear.
And that's exactly it. So I'm getting, my partner and I are going to make our own wedding rings, which I know
fantastic.
you do as well. So we're going to talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
So we're going to make our own wedding rings. My cousin is a silversmith and she's worked with white gold before, so she's going to help us with our rings. And it was a case of actually just going in and trying stuff on and figuring out the shape that we wanted, because, you know, flat court, soft court, D shape, means nothing to me.
Exactly.
Whatever looks nicest is probably more important and feels the best on my hand. So, you know, when you go in and try on wedding rings, what should you be looking for?
I mean, I think the first thing is to make sure you're comfortable. So we don't recommend, as silly as it sounds, the clothing you wear can actually be quite important. You know, if you go into a jeweller's and you're all hot and bothered, you've got gloves on, your hands are a little bit puffed up, you can sometimes feel a little bit uncomfortable trying on rings. So make sure you go in comfortable. We normally recommend going in as a couple. It is amazing how many times we have women coming in or men coming in and they're buying for both, but they're not quite sure of the size. So we recommend coming in together. You know, and try things on. It's amazing how people come in saying, I know what I want, and then they leave with something completely different. So we normally say go in with a bit of an open mind and just have a bit of fun and try everything on, because what you think you want and what you end up with are actually often two very different things.
Yeah.
And that often comes down to us making sure that we listen to our customers and actively listen and find out, well, actually what's suitable for them. You know, if you're an electrician, you work with your hands all day, actually having white gold probably isn't that suitable because you're going to scratch all the rhodium away. Having something that's brushed might not be suitable because the brush will come away. So it's often about knowing, everyone has a style, they know exactly kind of what they want to begin with. And then it is just a case of trying things on, because we recommend normally, you know, you want to stick to the same metal. So if your wedding ring, for example, is platinum, your engagement ring is platinum, you probably want to go for a platinum wedding band.
Something that matches nicely with that metal.
Exactly. And we're finding now about 80% of the brides that we speak to are opting for diamonds. So again, it's changed a lot from, you know, 30 years ago when actually a lot of women would take their engagement rings off and just wear their wedding ring and it'd be a big thick gold band. People don't want that anymore. They want something that just makes them smile, and
Yeah.
they can enjoy wearing. And
Yeah, that's the thing as well, isn't it? When you want to feel like it's something that you can wear every day. So if you do work with your hands a lot, you probably need something stronger than white gold, and that's quite an important aspect, really.
yeah, absolutely. And also, it's things, it's there's so much to understand when it comes to buying your wedding rings that it can be quite confusing. And we hear a lot of things. For example, if you've got a 9 carat wedding ring, engagement ring, you must have a 9 carat wedding ring because they have to be the same carat. Well, that's not necessarily true, and it goes the reverse. If you've got an 18 carat engagement ring, you don't necessarily need to have an 18 carat gold wedding ring. It often comes down to the age of the ring, so and the alloys that have been used. So by going to an expert, you'll get the right information. It's a great sales tactic. Oh, you must have this ring, which is 3 times the price because your engagement ring is 18 karat gold. When the reality is maybe they can't actually quite afford 18 karat gold, and 9 carat would suit them. Metal is measured on something called the Vickers scale, which actually measures the hardness. So there is a science behind it as well. So the Vickers scale measures the hardness of the metals. And what they do is they now create a recipe. So, I mean, mad recipe. But the gold is 18 karat gold is made up of 75% gold, and the rest is made up of other metals, which we call alloys. And what they do now is they can mix the alloys to make the metals the same hardness. So actually you can wear a 9 carat with an 18 carat without it damaging or wearing each other away. There are benefits of 18 karat gold. It has less silver in it, so it won't tarnish as much, but the actual hardness should be the same. And that's why I think going to a trusted jeweller who knows what they're talking about, you'll get the best advice, and it might actually save you a few pounds as well.
So talking about making your own wedding rings then, this is something that me and my partner are doing. What about you guys? You've started doing this quite recently, haven't you?
Yeah, we saw, I mean, actually it was from a lot of inquiries we were getting from couples who just couldn't quite find what they wanted. We thought, well, let's make it, let's go bespoke. And then the goldsmith suggested, well, why not bring them in to make it themselves? And I thought, can you do that? Can somebody learn how to make a ring in a day? Don't be silly. And actually, it's amazing, they can. And we have clients, we had a couple coming down from Glasgow recently to make their own wedding rings. And the joy in their face, you're going to have such an amazing time when you do it. I mean, you're about 7 months away from getting married. When is it you're actually making your rings?
Well, we're going to be going very, very soon.
Right.
So we said we'd do it at the start of the year. So we're going hopefully soon.
You're going to have so much fun with it because, how we do it is in the morning you make something in silver, and then in the afternoon you make it in precious metal. So you get a bit of a practice run first where you learn some of the techniques, but because you've got that expert over your shoulder, it can encouraging you, showing you the way. By the end of a day, you can make your own wedding rings, and it is really romantic. There are some limitations if you want diamonds, and if you're wanting to use platinum, it can be a little bit trickier because it's a much harder metal to work with. But actually, you can do 80% of it, and then let us finish it off.
Right. Yeah, which is lovely because I guess most couples would make each other's rings. Would you say, or is it actually they make their own?
No, normally they make each other's. So the groom will make the groom's, and the bride will make the groom's, or the bride will make the bride. So they normally make each other's, which is quite nice. But I think it just makes it much more romantic. One thing I really like doing is encouraging couples to, ask their friends and family if they've got any old gold in the house that they don't wear. And actually you can make the wedding rings out of, gold or broken earrings, lost chains, broken chains from all their friends. So they can actually not only just make their own wedding rings, but they can make it with bits of old jewellery that have belonged to people they love and care about. So they can just make those rings that little bit extra special.
Yeah.
So there's lots of things people can do. They just need to be given ideas.
Yeah, and that's really nice because it's sort of additional things like maybe perhaps like you've had a loved one that you've lost and you can use some of their jewellery for it. It's quite reminiscent of them.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it's, the wedding ring is genuinely the only thing that you will keep forever after you get married.
Yeah.
You're never going to wear your dress again, really.
No.
Your cake will disappear, the flowers will die, but your wedding rings are something that are eternal. They will stay on your finger for your whole married life. So I think a lot of people don't put enough thought into the wedding rings because they're looking at the dresses and everything else. And then it comes to wedding rings, and actually making your own just makes it that little bit more romantic. Mm-hmm. So we do a lot of interesting things with make your own. We encourage people to think outside the box. So some of the things we've done fairly recently, we had a couple where we recorded each other laughing, and then we turned that laughter into a sound wave, and then we cut the sound wave out of the front of the ring. So every time they're having a bad day or a sad day, they just have to look at the ring and their partner's laughing at them or with them. So there's lots of little things you can do that just make it that little bit more interesting. And we had another couple recently where I encouraged them to, I asked them lots of questions and found out where it was they proposed, and it was some pub on the Isle of Wight. We found the coordinates of exactly where, the very first time they met, where their life started together. And then we put that on the inside of the ring as coordinates. It means nothing to anybody else. But it's a little bit more interesting than just your initials and the day you got married.
Yeah, and it's really, really sweet actually, and how personal that can be.
Yeah.
What you said there were some limitations in terms of like adding diamonds or like specific designs. What kinds of limitations? Is it just because the metal can be too difficult to work with for someone that's an amateur, or?
Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to more things like setting the diamonds. That's a real skill that takes many, many years to learn and master. So when we have a couple and there is that challenge because she really wants to have diamonds set in her ring, we just work with her and make sure that they understand that, he will finish hers and she will have, most of the ring done. And then we will just finish it off and actually set those diamonds for her. But actually just being involved with it is nice. But we've taken it one step further because we also do invite groups down. So for example, if you and your 6 bridesmaids and best man want to come down, you can actually come down and make a little bit of jewellery for your bridesmaids. Some cufflinks.
Oh, that's nice. That's a really nice idea.
So you can just take that a little bit further. But actually it's a really nice, fun day because, you're in the workshop with people love, and you get to make each other, a little wedding charm or something. So rather than just giving them something that you've bought off a shelf, you actually get to make that little thing. You can bring the mother of the bride down, all these kind of things, and you can just make something. So we've tried to make it more, I think, retail has changed a lot, and it's now much more about experience. And people want to have a nice experience because they remember that, and that's what they share. And you've also got to be aware of things like, Instagram and TikTok. People want to share those experiences with their friends who maybe live in Australia now or, across the globe. But we have the ability to share these really exciting moments with the people that we care about who might not be around us anymore. So you can make those experiences fun for everybody. And I think that's what we're really trying to do with the workshop. So this is one of the benches we would use if there's sort of 2 or 3 people coming together, if you're making each other's wedding rings, and we've got more benches over here. So it's just a really nice thing for people to do. It makes it a bit more romantic.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of romantic, we started off talking about engagement rings and obviously women's engagement rings. I think it's a little bit more difficult if you are in a same-sex relationship or you are proposing to your potential future husband. How do you find a man's engagement ring? I think that's quite a tricky one.
Yeah, that's a great question. In fact, today is my 16th wedding anniversary.
Is it? Oh, congratulations!
Yes, yeah. So I was one of the first same-sex couples to ever get married in the UK.
Wow, that's amazing.
When John and I decided we were going to do it, and we were probably the most unromantic couple ever. We actually, when we got married, we booked the register office, and then we both forgot about it.
Right.
So it was only when a friend phoned me up on the set. God, it was meant to be the end of November, and he said, "Oh, what time do you want us round at tomorrow?" I'm thinking, "What are you coming round tomorrow for?" And he's like, "You asked me to be a witness." And I totally forgot.
Oh my gosh.
John had forgotten. In fact, we forgot it was our anniversary until I got a text from Mum last night saying, "Oh, happy anniversary for tomorrow." So we had to rebook it. We actually had to rebook our wedding day.
Oh gosh, wow.
We're 2 men. We're just not very good at these sort of things. But neither of us really thought much about wedding rings. But when or engagement rings, but actually we were a bit nervous about going into Jewellers and, as a couple asking for rings because we thought, oh God,
here we go.
Us,
yeah.
And actually, do you know what? The experience was the total opposite.
That's good. That's lovely to hear.
And we do find a lot of couples are still a bit nervous about going in. buying wedding rings because they're just not sure, do we need wedding rings or should we wear wedding rings? So it's just about making your customers feel comfortable and never making any assumptions.
Yeah, absolutely. And who proposed to who?
Do you know, I think we just agreed.
You just agreed?
Yeah. It was really romantic,
Yeah.
you know, over a kebab or something, you know, on a bottle of Iron Brew. We decided, because we could, you know, we've been together now for 22 years. I was 21 when I got married.
Wow.
16 years ago. It's frightening.
Yeah, it goes really quickly,
Yeah, but you were seeing more and more couples now. So we never thought about engagement rings. We just thought wedding rings. Men don't wear engagement rings. But actually, we're seeing a trend now where after, you know, he proposes maybe to his partner, his girlfriend or boyfriend, actually, you know, it's nice for him to also say, I'm taken. You know, these days you're not getting married sometimes for 2 years after you propose. So it's a great way of getting used to wearing a ring. And it doesn't have to be expensive. We normally find men's engagement rings, they're buying things that are quite cool and a little bit trendy. So, you know, for example, this one here is made with, it's titanium, so it's really lightweight. It's £89.
Okay, it's not, and that's lovely looking at it. It's really, really pretty.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this is where people get confused about things like engagement. They think it has to be expensive to be precious, and it really doesn't. So this has got crushed opals in the middle, and then it's got a wood inlay around it. It's really nice. It's a bit trendy, but actually what it does is it sort of says, I'm taken, you know. Not that you have to tell people you're taken, but it's nice to make that commitment. Yeah. You know, we're seeing a lot of couples having things like promise rings now as well.
Yeah, and I mean, I have an acquaintance from university who I saw on her social media. Her partner proposed to her, and then a couple of months later, she returned the favour to him and sort of gave him a ring as well, which is a lovely idea if you're both wanting something. My partner said to me that one of his colleagues proposed to his girlfriend recently, and he's decided that actually he wants to wear a ring as well. So it's something that's a bit of a mutual decision. As you say, getting used to wearing one.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it is one of those things that a lot of men, they get married, they wear a wedding ring and it feels alien to them. It's often the very first piece of jewellery a man will ever wear.
Yeah, I didn't think of it that way.
Will be a wedding ring. So if you've never worn a ring before, it takes a bit of time to get used to it sometimes. So by actually doing it, you know, a few years before, by the time you get to your wedding,
it's just a different ring you're putting on.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. But you don't want to take it off because you're used to it now. And like I said, they don't have to cost a lot of money for it to still mean something. And you know, I think that's what we always say to couples. It's because you asked earlier about choosing your wedding rings. I think the most important thing is, you know, if you've got a budget, stick to it. You know, you should be comfortable. Don't put yourself into debt buying wedding rings.
Because you can always upgrade them later in the future as well, couldn't you?
Exactly, yeah. And this is what we say to people. And actually what happens is a lot of women persuade their husbands to go for, or their partners to go for one of these £98 ones so that she can have more diamonds in hers, you know. So, yeah, very clever.
We are master manipulators as women.
But you know what, most men oblige. They're quite happy because it's all they care about is having something on their finger. And it's about what it symbolises often more. And if you lose a ring that's only costing £98, you know, it's not the end of the world.
Exactly. Really. And that's what I'm looking forward to when we're making our rings. Is, as you say, we're starting off in the morning, creating one out of silver and then one out of our white gold as the metal we've chosen.
Brilliant.
And that silver ring, you know, my partner and I have gone, oh, that's brilliant, because if we lose the ring, we've got another one of exactly the same match. And other reason being, if I need to go work the national wedding show or something like that and I'm doing a lot of heavy lifting, I can wear that instead. You know, it's not which gives it a nice backup really. So and
a lot of women now as well, I mean, a lot more women work now than, you know, 40, 50 years ago.
Absolutely.
You know, it now takes 2 wages to have a house.
Don't we know it?
So we're actually finding that a lot of women are going for something that's practical. And a lot of women have 2 wedding rings. They've got one that matches their engagement ring. And if you're a nurse or a vet, or you work in an environment where actually you can't wear your rings, but you can wear a plain band, we find a lot of it's the norm now to have more than one. It's ironic. I have 9 wedding rings.
Wow! I did not expect that. I thought you were about to come out with 3.
I've been married once, but I have, because I keep seeing something. I think, oh, that's cool. That'll go with that watch. So you know, and you know, people do get divorced. It does happen, and sometimes they'll buy a ring in. And I think, I quite like that. So I end up wearing somebody else's wedding ring because I think it's quite cool. So there's nothing wrong with having, and a lot of women have more than one engagement ring.
Yes, well, that my best friend's got more than one engagement ring. She's got her engagement ring, which is, has the diamonds in it, and she's got one that's cubic zirconia. It's like, again, like that backup ring. She works a lot with her hands. She does a lot of like heavy lifting at events and things like that. So,
Absolutely.
She's got a spare ring that if it gets knocked and you lose the stone, not the end of the world.
You don't even necessarily have to be buying an engagement ring. You could just buy a second ring for your beautiful partner.
Yeah, absolutely. Drop a hint there.
Yes.
Come on, guys. If you're listening,
get her another ring. I mean, diamonds are a girl's best friend after all.
Yes, 100%. I can only agree.
Yeah, absolutely. What we're also seeing is that men are also wearing wedding jewellery. Before it was always women that wore wedding jewellery. They would think about, what they're going to wear with their dress. But we're actually seeing men now are thinking about, should I wear a bracelet or do I wear a watch? So we're getting asked so many more questions now. People are, and actually some men are wearing pearls.
Really? So what kind of jewellery would they be wearing with pearls on it?
A lot of men are wearing normal strands of pearls. I mean, I think it started off with Harry Styles.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
If Harry can wear pearls, then,
I can wear pearls too.
Exactly. And it's not just same-sex couples. We're getting a lot of heterosexual men that also think, do you know what? I like wearing jewellery. It's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I think, if there's one day that you want to feel really special, it's your wedding day. So why not wear the jewellery that you would like to wear?
Exactly. And I think this is what we're seeing is, everything's upside down now. There's I don't think anyone knows. I don't know what the norm is. I don't know what a traditional engagement ring is anymore or a traditional wedding ring because it's about being yourself. And I think, wear what makes you happy. That's the number one advice I'd give to anybody. It's your style. You're the one that has to wear it. If you want to rock pearls or you want to rock a crazy big snake ring like I'm wearing today, then just do it. It's you and your partner. The day should be about you, and wedding jewellery is as much a part, it can be just as special because often you'll find the wedding jewellery is often bought by sometimes it's a wedding gift or it's bought by the mother of the bride will often buy something. Pearls are your very classic traditional wedding jewellery, but now we're seeing women wearing diamond necklaces, and because of lab-grown diamonds you can buy a really accessible diamond necklace that is wow. If you want to wear a tiara, you rock a tiara.
Absolutely.
It's all about what you feel comfortable with. So I think that's what we say to people: don't wear what you want. It's your wedding day.
Absolutely. And so if we're talking about a starting point for jewellery, what kind of considerations do you want to take in?
I think that it often comes down to simply your outfit. What are you wearing for your wedding? Do you have a low neckline? Do you need to wear something like a bit of a choker, pearls? Do you feel more comfortable? A lot of women don't wear much jewellery at all. They just wear a nice bracelet. A lot of people will take into something blue or something borrowed, something old, and they'll actually use the jewellery to kind of tie those things into it.
Well, that's exactly what I'm doing. Yeah. Like my granny was gifted a pearl bracelet by my grandpa who passed away last year now.
Right.
And so I'm wearing that pearl bracelet, and my partner's nan, who again also she passed away back in 2021, I think. I'm wearing her earrings, which were pearl earrings. So those kinds of things can add like a really nice personal touch, can't they?
Well,
and the sort of memory side to it too.
People who are not with you anymore are still kind of with you in spirit.
Yeah.
And what I love is the idea that, if you go on to have a daughter and she says to get married, she could wear that pearl bracelet. And you can create a family tradition.
Yes.
And we see that more and more, actually. People wearing the wedding jewelry that their mother wore, that their grandmother wore. And that's that thing that just makes that little bit more special. So, when it comes to jewellery, again, pearls don't have to cost the earth.
No.
You can get simulated pearls that cost £20 that
no one's going to know the difference.
And it should just simply be about, like I said earlier, wear something that you love wearing. You generally find most brides or grooms will seek permission from their friends or their family. Oh, what do you think of this? So it can be a really fun experience shopping with, a bridesmaid or a best man to find the cufflinks that you're going to wear. So we normally just recommend making fun of it. Trying things on with your wedding dress, seeing what you think looks best. But these days, people wear all sorts of things, from gold serpent spine necklaces to pearls to nothing.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's got to reflect your personality and reflect you, doesn't it?
Yeah. And actually, we had a lovely couple recently, and she had picked up some broken glass from the beach. And Matt, who's working over my shoulder here, he polished the bottles into little, almost like pebbles, and then we turned those into a necklace. And then she gifted that to her girlfriend, and that's what she wore on her wedding day. So
wow, that's so nice. Actually, it's something different that people,
something that's lying around on a beach turned into a piece of jewellery that means the world to her.
Yeah,
all it cost was a bit of labour from Matt, who polished them, made them look amazing. But it meant so much more to that couple than just buying something. So again, we normally recommend having a little look on Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest. That's the one I was trying to think of. Still don't understand Pinterest, by the way. But brides seem to have Pinterest boards everywhere. But it's great. There's so many exciting things that you can get inspired by just by using the internet. So, come into the shop, have a glass of champagne, and just try things on.
Perfect.
Bring your friends and just have a bit of fun.
And make a day of it.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, David, for joining me today on the podcast. We've learned so much about lab-grown diamonds, jewellery, wedding rings. Really, really appreciate your time. So thank you so much.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Great.
And it's been great to talk about diamonds and all things bling.
All things bling. If you'd like to learn more about David Rodger Sharp Jewellers, we'll be linking both of their shops in the show notes below. And we will see you next time on the Wedding Podcast.